How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk, and I want to talk about us versus them. I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking when I say us versus them, I'm thinking about staff versus inmate population, but that's not the case. I'm talking about staff kind of versus each other. Staff, frontline staff versus admin, custody staff versus civilian staff, just a divide that we have, and it's about time we have this discussion. It's needed, because if we're divided, we're vulnerable. So again, the show is Tier Talk. Stand by for my sponsors, and let's talk about us versus them.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Okay, so let's talk about us versus them. And by the way, as mentioned before, I'm not talking about officers or civilian staff versus inmates, because again, contrary to popular belief, it's not always the case. We don't walk around with generalized animosity towards anyone who's an inmate. Actually, when I worked the field, I'm sure like most of us professionals do, if we had issues with, let's say, one or two inmates, we kept it to those one or two inmates. We never generalized our animosity, and that's key, because when you start doing that, tensions rise, and then unfortunately we could be setting ourselves up for some major issues, because you don't want the inmates united. So you start treating everyone with this generalized animosity and not really specifying it to the individual that's a concern. Well, you're going to wind up uniting every inmate there, and that's when it becomes an issue. So most of the time when staff has a problem with an inmate, it's usually a selected group of inmates, maybe one, maybe a few more, but never with everyone. And again, our concern is that unity aspect. So when I'm talking about us versus them, I'm talking about staff kind of versus each other, staff versus admin, staff, custody staff versus civilian staff. And my reasons behind why we have this animosity, because it is, trust me, every time you put a message up, frontline staff has animosity towards admin, and in some cases it's just, we're talking about communication concerns. We're talking about frontline not being heard, not being part of the changes that are being made, and unfortunately they're getting affected the most by those changes. So there's a frustration there. And I think another concern is we don't understand our role and how those roles interact with other departments. So if I'm custody and my concern is safety and security, how does my role interact with, let's say, those that perform a rehabilitative function like social services and mental health or education? And then from administrative level, we're facilitators. We help the different departments communicate with each other. So where is the communication lacking? So when you have multiple departments that are kind of working in isolation of each other, as upper management on the administrative end, it makes it very hard for us to complete the end game, to complete what our mission is, what the agency tells us that mission is. So if I have two department heads that are conflicting with each other, most likely, possibly because of personality issues, management is forced to make a catch-22. We're going to have to make a decision that only benefits one department. But had both departments worked together, had they communicated, if there was an issue, at least they're doing what they can to work together to solve that issue. So if management has to make a decision, it's not a decision that benefits one department over the other. So again, we're facilitators. So one of the big concerns about that divide, because this divide that we have amongst each other makes us vulnerable, is the fact that we're not communicating with each other. And the inmates see that. And the inmates will use that to divide us. Inmates need to see that we are connected. When we have a concern, we go to each other to solve that concern. If I'm a teacher and I have a problem with what's going on, I go to, let's say, custody staff. We keep it amongst us as a group, as a team, and we don't travel out and go to the inmates. So communication is one of our biggest concerns that cause this divide. And again, it's communication that's needed because that is what will teach us to understand each other's perspective. We all have a job to do. We all have a function to perform. And our goal is, yes, to perform that function. But if the other departments don't understand what that role is that we have or what that function is, there could be resistance. So what do we do to limit that resistance? Let the other department know, or the other staff member know, hey, we have the same end game. So why are we working in isolation of each other? Why are we working separated from each other? We all know that custody, safety, and security, that's paramount. So we got to ask ourselves, if we're not with custody, how does our function work with custody to get the job done? That's the key. So at the end of the day, it's our communication with each other that's destroying us. It's our communication with each other that's limiting us and moving forward in a positive manner, the evolution of where we need to be. And if we don't take the time to communicate with each other, if we don't take the time to educate each other on each of our perspectives and our collective role, we have a problem. And we will remain divided. And the inmates will see that. They will aid in that divide. And all we have is a department that runs in isolation. The changes that are being made are not beneficial to us collectively. They are maybe beneficial to us on an independent level, which does not work for us. The changes that need to be made have to benefit us as a whole, or it does not work and only makes us vulnerable and puts our safety at risk. So again, just a little bit of communication about understanding each other's perspective. That's our goal in 2018, cross-perspective training. How does our roles interact with each other? What are you doing? What am I doing? And how do we work together to move forward? As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell button, get the notifications every time I put a video up. Love you guys. Stay safe.